always go back and say, what have I done wrong? That's the question I've always had in my head. What have I done wrong? I was born in Rwanda and I grew up there. I've got brilliant memories of my childhood. I was a big family and I was the youngest in the family. Normal things really. Go to school, you play football, you get busy weekends, a very church-goer kind of family it was. So yeah, happy childhood. Yeah.
Oh, good stop.
عليك الباقي من باقينا لا تحزن ولا تشتاق ولا تندم حات الباقي من باقينا لا. I always enjoyed singing since I was a child actually. We used to go out for picnics when I was in Sudan. And normally when we go out for a picnic or an outing to the fruit gardens or to the riverside, people sit in big groups and then sing. And I think that's when it started. ولا ما عارف عليا لو خلاص خليتي ريدي.
I used to have a dog, but back in Colombia, not here. I couldn't be around looking after, so I need to give to somebody else the dog. It was quite sad, but I think if you are living your country, you have to be detached of basically of everything. Otherwise, you will never get off. This is sometimes what you have to do. I originally from Colombia. My father was a farmer. It's in a small village, a little bit outside of the city. My father's family were liberals. And back in the 50s, there was a huge time of violence. My family was persecuted for defending their ideas. Some of my uncles were literally massacred. My grandfather also was killed. Another of my mother's brother was also killed in front of my grandmother. But normally, I just follow the developments in Colombia, what's going on with the political situation. So I always give a flavor what's happening, how many people have been killed, what happened, where this thing happened, these kind of things like that. During the last 10 years, more than 50,000 people have been killed for political reasons. Almost 4 million people have been internally displaced by the civil war, by the civil conflict in my country. I started to work with my profession as a sociologist. And so I decided to go into the Pacific region. And I was working there for a national program, coordinating the Black and indigenous communities. And when I was working in that program, paramilitary forces start to get presence there and start to inspect and start to check who is doing what. And after a while, those people start to phone me home, and they start to use nasty expressions and really horrible things. And then suddenly later they start to look for me and go in and knock the door and asking for me, and they basically threaten me to kill me. The local community representative was, they cut the head and put in a bridge. I basically started to get really scared, because I have seen the capacity of private army, like the paramilitary forces, of killing people, killing political leaders. And then when you get to that situation, you say, oh my God, I need to go from here because these people are gonna kill me. So I was moving all the time because I knew something was going on, but at the same time I was trying to find ways of getting out of the country.
Most of the people obviously will remember Rwanda for the genocide. What I think shocked the world was, the speed at which people were killed. Almost 1 billion people in 100 days. In the tiniest country, probably one of the tiniest countries on the planet. We had to leave, me and my brother, because there was nowhere to stay. If we stayed, basically, we were being killed. I mean, that's 100% sure, because everyone who was at home at the time was killed. We went to Uganda, but it wasn't safe anymore. To most of the people, we thought it was safe, but it wasn't. So we wanted to go as far as we could from Rwanda. That was the idea. Somewhere safe, somewhere far. It was never a plan to come in the UK, but at the time we didn't have a choice. Whatever we were going to get, we were going to take it. I always thought that, if I go here, it's the city, the people that was going to shock me. But that really didn't at all. What surprised me is really how I felt myself. I realized that actually life went on somewhere else. So to see people without problems was new. It can only take like somebody who's not been through hell to make you realize that actually something is seriously wrong. The first thing I said, well, I'm going to go to study and I'm going to keep myself busy at work and just stay sane, really. Trying to stay sane. That's the only way you can do. That's, for me, going crazy, it was not an option. I kept telling myself that I know who I was before the whole genocide thing. So I always tried to be that person.
Hi, Mark. How are you? Good, man. I was born in Sudan in the Blue Nile province. It's a very small town, actually, by the Blue Nile River. And, that's why when I opened this shop here in Edinburgh, I decided to call it the Blue Nile. Originally, I came to Glasgow from Sudan in 1986 as a student. I didn't know anything before. I haven't lived in any Western society before I lived in Glasgow, so that's my first experience. But I was lucky because at that time I stayed with my brother and his family. In 1989, things changed in Sudan, and a military government came into power. I was in Glasgow at that time, and I heard lots of rumors about how savage and oppressive this new regime was. But until I went to Sudan in 1990 to see for myself, and then at that point I realized how bad the situation was. That was a decisive moment for me, because I had to make a decision either to stay in this country or to go back to Sudan where my life would be in danger. And at that point I made my decision to claim asylum in the UK.
The only thing I knew is that you are entitled to ask for asylum. It's a long process of interview to tell your whole story, and then after that you sign the paper. And only I remember when describing my whole journey that day, it was so heavy and so painful that I was just crying when I signed those papers, because I knew I don't know when I will be back to my country or to my family. I signed those papers, and as soon as I did that, they say to me there will be a kind of provision for you in terms of money, and later they sent me to bread and breakfast hostel or this kind of thing. So they say when you sign it for asylum, you will receive your permission to work. And so I wait. When the time started to pass and pass, I was feeling this homesick feeling of leaving my country, my family, and everything there. Here is winter, really cold and really, really lonely, and you start to wait and ask your lawyer what happened, and they say no answers. 1 month, 2 months, 1 year, no permission for work. If you are in a room, 4 walls enclosed all the time, just surviving like an animal in a cage, then is when the frustration starts to arise, because you see your life is stuck and you are not anyone in here. Years and years in your life just pass like that.
So 2 years later, my brother had his status, but mine didn't come through. I waited, it never came through, so I started worrying. I just kept writing to the immigration, and they completely ignored me, to be honest. There was no answer, there was no clear explanation of what was happening. I was doing a TV and film operation production at Stevenson College, but it was really, really difficult, because the law says if you don't have your status, you are not eligible to any grant, loans, anything. I was working like 50 hours and studying and cinema work, doing the doors, and I had to do it because it was the only way really to survive. It became too much towards the end of my H&D because I couldn't keep up, with the rent, with all the bills, these things, it became too much, and slowly I started really, backing behind, and some courses didn't really finish, which is frustrating, because of when I came I was so determined, and There is a training I wanted to do with the BBC, for example. And it was going really well. I had passed the first step and the second. And they asked me the passport, and I don't have it. And that's it. They say, well. And I say, well, you can ask the immigration. They know who I am. I'm not here legally. I said, no.
You didn't feel they were laboring before?
You are really stuck. And because of this, slowly, you start losing really the hunger, really, of doing and succeeding.
With a contradiction in terms. But the Grand changed all that with the introduction of a swanky...
My work at the BCDP, and that's a Black Community Development Project, is a community development worker. Now I call myself practitioner after I finish my degree. But it's all to do with community development. Basically helping local people to gain access to education, employment, and also organizing activities to bring people together. Because for me, educating the Scottish people about different cultures and traditions was very important, and it's part of a learning exercise that we all go through to understand, your culture, you understand my culture, and then we have a better chance of living together peacefully. I will never forget, although Glasgow was nice and I had lots of friends and we had a very good time, but racism probably at that time was widespread in Glasgow. One day I was actually getting off the tube at Buchanan Street station in Glasgow, and I was confronted with two white guys, and they started to verbally abuse me, and the whole thing became, turned into a physical fight. And there's two of them, so they kind of overpowered me, and I remember, the physical bit of it wasn't really the most hurtful. The most hurtful bit was, people walking by and not intervening or trying to stop, what was going on.
In 2004, that's what I decided to write to my MP, Alistair Darling, and 2 weeks later, the Home Office got back to me. I went for an interview with the Immigration Department in Liverpool. It was just before Christmas, 2004.
You better watch out, you better not cry, better not pout, I'm telling you why. Santa Claus is coming to town. He's making a list and checking it twice. He's gonna find out who's naughty and nice. Santa Claus is coming to town.
2 weeks later, I received a letter basically rejecting my application. It was completely refused. I've always been positive. To see that was a huge, huge shock.
We haven't got any news, no permission to work, and suddenly, 3 years later, a letter arrived from the Home Office saying, you're having an interview for your application for asylum seeker. So I managed to get on time, trying to run, get a taxi, go to Liverpool. You had to prove that your life has been threatened or in danger, and that you don't have protection or you don't have safety from your government. I respond all the questions they asked. I was confident I will get my case. So 1 month or something later, I got a letter through my lawyer saying your case has been refused. Now, if you want to appeal, you appeal, otherwise you can be deported or you can go to your country. Now you have to fight the government decision. It's not just fighting your case, it's fighting the view of the UK government on your country that says that your government is fine, your government is a democracy, there is no issues of human rights in your country. If they say, if your life are in threat, why you don't go to the police or to the army to ask for protection? This kind of stupid things. When you are basically persecuted by the Secret Service and you are persecuted by paramilitary forces that work in coalition with the government, how the hell you go to the police and say, this guy is gonna kill me and I'll ask you for protection?
Then I went through the appeal process. I had to go to court. And it's painful because when you are there, you go back where you came from, and you think about things you went through. And someone is sitting there saying that there is no problem, you don't have a problem. That's where the immigration officer is there for. It is to prove that everything you're saying is wrong. You can go home, you have a beautiful life. So as far as they were concerned, Rwanda was a safe haven.
Politics, diplomatic relationships can influence those decisions. Basically, this government, British government, support the Colombian government and also giving military aid and money and sell guns and technology to a government which is one of the most violent regimes who will use the arms and the guns against his own people. After the court, you wait for around another 2-3 months, or goes like an endless time for you, literally praying and waiting for what the judge gonna be saying about my case, and also be ready for the worst. Counting, waiting, and thinking every day. It's like the time doesn't move. My lawyer phoned me. They said, we got positive decision, you are safe. So only until that day I just feel relief, like a kind of sense, not peace, but a kind of sense of like, oh, it's finished now, this horrible torturing process. I just arriving here safely now.
One of the funny things, sometimes when I take a taxi or when I drove a taxi, because for a few months I drove a minicab here in Edinburgh, and white people jump in the car and say, oh, okay, where are you from? And you say, well, originally I'm from Sudan, I'm from Africa, and he goes, oh, I don't mind darkies, I hate Pakis. How do you expect me to feel? Oh, I don't mind darkies, but I hate Pakis, How, I'm a black person, and, sometimes I laugh, sometimes I try to go and say, look, what's wrong with Pakis, or why do you say Pakis? But it's ignorance, I think, lack of education, lack of contact with other cultures,
I came back from work in April, and the door was barricaded. It was all blocked. I couldn't get in. So, but there was a message with a number. It said, this is the immigration, please give us a call, ASAP. I said, okay, fine. I phoned them, and they said, well, we have a reason to believe that you are going to escape or become an illegal immigrant if we don't stop you now. So we want you to go to the nearest police station as soon as possible. And then I said, well, okay, I will tomorrow. And we agreed on the phone, fine. The morning after I went to work, thinking that I'll finish around 3, 4, and then go to the police station as they were asking me. I was working for a charity company called the Action Group. I was working as a support worker. The job basically consists of working for people who have learning disabilities, most of them adults at the time. We really go on fine, It was a job I enjoyed. While I was there, they came and arrested me. And the police officer who comes to arrest me, he's calling me an illegal immigrant. One of my clients actually got very, very upset. These guys are very sensitive. So to come and arrest me, everything with the van and 4 or 5 people in the house and calling me all these things, I had to go and give him a hug and say, no man, I'm sorry, I am not all that, but my friend Dave will explain to you. Words are powerful, In front of my colleagues and my clients, to say that I was in that country illegally, that really, really angered me. Because many people who were in my situation chose to do that, and they are still working and doing far better than me. But I chose not to do that. My case was ongoing. Okay, 3 times a week. I had to go to the police to sign. And I wrote to them, I'd done everything. They've got all my details. They knew where I worked. They had my name of my supervisor. Even details they didn't need. I made sure they had them. But the guy chose to come in front of everybody, say such a thing. I mean, for me, it was probably one of the lowest probably moments I had in this case. I was in handcuffs in one of those cages in the van at the back, and then you are sitting in that cage, and you're like, what honestly have I done? You know, I am actually a prisoner. Like, you know, everything suggests that you're a criminal around you, but you know you're not. And that's horrible. The morning after that, I was taken to Dangevo. Dangevo is an immigration center, they call it removal center. But, you know, if you look at it, it's a prison. It's really a prison. You are, you know, not allowed to go beyond like 100 meters from where you sleep. And even within the center itself, there are places you're not allowed to go to. But a week later, they sent me a letter saying that, you know, I had 1 week to go. They actually booked a ticket. They booked a flight for me from Heathrow to Rwanda. So, and that's when I hit home. I realized that, wow, it's really, really happening. I was in this place in London. It's actually minutes away from Heathrow, where I was supposed to fly from. I had the details of the ticket in my pocket. I could see the planes outside from the window, you know. And all these things are in your head. I'm gonna go to a scene of murder, basically. That's how the last time I saw it as, you know, this is where I lost my people, and I'm forced to go back there. You know, I couldn't even think straight. And what made things worse was when people came to visit. You know, when my girlfriend came over, my mates would come, and there is one point really, I said bye to them. I thought I would never see them again. And these are people I've known for like 10, 12 years. It's a horrible, horrible feeling. But once again, you always go back and say, what have I done wrong? That's the question I've always had in my head. What have I done wrong? Nothing. Nothing. For 2, 3 nights, I couldn't sleep. I didn't know what was gonna happen. We were waiting for the judge of the High Court to sign a piece of paper. So many people then started sending messages for my petition. It started as like maybe 50 people or 100, 200. And it really went up so quickly. In like 3 days, we had like 1,000, 1,500 people. So because of that, I think the government paid attention. Anita called me, he just signed it. Yeah. And I just couldn't believe it. I was like, oh my God.
When I came to Scotland, I didn't have contacts with musicians. So apart from singing with friends, small groups, I hardly did any performances for a long time. And then luckily, a few years ago, Mubarak actually, who plays with me at the moment, he moved to Edinburgh, and we started to get together on weekly basis to rehearse. And now we are able to perform for, Sudanese community events or different cultural activities.
back in my country and I qualify sociologist or professional. My qualifications, they are no equivalent to qualifications over here. Basically, they are like a second-class papers. Because I've been in here for 4 years or 5 years almost unemployed, not working, not being able to work legally, this is something that plays against you. It has been so difficult for me to get a job, a normal payment job. And I apply and apply and apply and went for an interview, and it was many times close, nothing. So finally I get a part-time job doing community development work. I quite like my work, but it's difficult, it's not easy. I work in Cremiller area, which is one of the most deprived areas. So Edinburgh, I work in Western Hills doing this kind of work.
ولا ما عارف عليا انت ما مشتاق ليا ولا ما عارف عليا لو خلاص خليتي ريدي لو خلاص مليتي ريدي يكفيني خاتمك فوق ايديا يعني ما مشتاق ليا ولا ما عارف عليا ما زمان قبال اسافر قلت لي وعدت طويل.
Yeah, I just received this letter from the Home Office. Let's hope this is the one. So basically, after 12 years waiting, this is it. Oh my God. Okay. I think I've got it, you know. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. Yeah. Right. Wow. Okay. I think, yeah, well, I don't think it's in black and white. They have been given 3 years discretion leave to remain, after which I'll be able to apply for indefinite leave to remain in the UK, after which I'll be able to apply for citizen, basically. Yeah. So they chose not to carry on with the judicial review as it was planned. Oh God. So basically, this is after 12 years, you know. This is the letter I've been waiting for, and here it is. I wish there was someone to celebrate with here, but there isn't. Okay, I'm gonna call all my mates now, and yeah. That's it.
I like they always are singing by free. So little but beautiful. It's gone now.